Have you ever found yourself standing in front of a car you knew you couldn't afford, but which, for some reason, seemed to call your name as if it were a piece of the future you've always dreamed of? Maybe you've even walked into a dealership just to take a look, and all it took was the salesperson showing you that affordable payment plan for your heart to race faster than the car's engine. And it's precisely at that moment, when ego takes the wheel and financial reality takes a back seat, that we begin to fall into traps that steal years of freedom. Have you ever experienced this? That feeling that suddenly you need to prove something to someone, or even to yourself, through a car that symbolizes status, achievement, power? Stay with me until the end, because what you're about to discover might surprise you. The truth is that this emotional conflict between the car you want and the car you can actually afford is much more common than it seems. The industry knows this. Every detail of the marketing, every shine on the bodywork, every angle in the commercial is designed to activate your desire and make you believe that that car is part of your identity. And that's why so many people end up completely ignoring the impact this decision has on their personal finances, entering into long-term financing, high interest rates, and installments that seem small at the time, but become a huge burden later. It is at this point that financial education ceases to be theory and becomes a real defense against emotional choices disguised as opportunities. When ego takes the lead, logic disappears. The car becomes a symbol, not a tool. And the problem is that while the ego only looks at the present, financial reality looks at the next 4, 5, or even 6 years of your life. That's why so many people leave the dealership smiling and months later are suffocated by a loan that consumes a large part of their income. Perhaps you've felt this before. That mixture of pride and fear, that momentary joy followed by silent worry. What nobody tells you is that this cycle repeats itself every day, and it's precisely this cycle that prevents thousands of people from building wealth, freedom, and security. What I want to show you today is that there's a simple and powerful way to break this cycle. Understand the difference between the car you can afford and the car you want, filtering everything through intelligent financial logic. And that's where something that will completely change the way you make decisions comes in. The 20-4-10 rule, a filter that cuts out the ego's excesses and restores clarity to your financial life. What you're about to discover in the next few minutes can help you see the car not as a symbol, but as a conscious choice that doesn't steal your future. Now that you've experienced this conflict between desire and reality, let's delve deeper into what really happens behind the scenes of this decision and why so many people get lost. Right here. Before we delve even deeper into this conflict between desire and reality, I want to extend an invitation that's part of this journey we're building together. If this topic resonates with you, leave a comment below, sharing what has resonated with you the most so far. Perhaps you've already experienced this tension between the car you wanted and the car you could actually afford. Perhaps you felt that mix of pride and worry. Or perhaps you're right at that decision point. Sharing. This isn't just about venting. It's about creating a real conversation, a community of people who want to make smarter financial decisions and learn from each other. Your voice matters here. And if you feel that this content helps you see the market differently, that it makes you reflect before falling into the traps of consumerism, then leave a like. It seems like a small thing, but the truth is that when you like the video, YouTube understands that this topic is relevant and shows it to more people who also need to hear it. That's how this message reaches further, how more people avoid making the same mistake, and how this channel stays alive, growing, and bringing content that truly transforms. If you're not already subscribed, take this opportunity to subscribe now and turn on notifications. This isn't just about increasing numbers. It's because if you're seeking financial freedom, clarity in your choices, and a safer path to building wealth, staying connected will help you not miss any content that can make a difference in your life. Your participation here is what makes this channel grow and reach more people with this type of content, creating a movement of people who want to evolve, think differently, and make conscious decisions. But take a deep breath, because there's still something important coming up. Now that we've opened this door between ego and reality, we need to understand how this conflict unfolds behind decisions that seem harmless, but that can cost. Yes, you years of your life. Let's continue. Now, I want to delve even deeper into this subject because there's a point that few people realize, but which completely shapes this journey between desire and decision. When you look at that dream car, you're not just looking at a vehicle, you're looking at an idealized version of yourself. The ego whispers that that car will give you respect, will give you presence, will place you on a level where you finally feel seen. And it is here that the perception of value begins to distort. The car ceases to be a tool for mobility and becomes a symbol of social validation. The industry knows this mechanism better than anyone. Every detail, the shine of the paint, the aggressive design of the headlights, the technological interior, is planned to activate exactly this feeling of immediate transformation, as if a purchase could redesign your identity. It is this emotional impact that opens the door to impulsive decisions. Behind the scenes of the Deutsche market, there is a whole behavioral engineering focused on triggering deep emotion, creating the illusion that you are not buying an object, but a new reality. That's why so many people fall into the same cycle. They go in to see a car and leave committed to long installments of 60 to 72 months, as if this were normal. But what nobody talks about is that these extended installments are the fertile ground for silent debt. Interest doubles the value of the car and, almost invisibly, steals your freedom little by little, month after month, while you try to maintain the appearance that everything is under control. There's a hidden truth in this process. The stronger the emotional appeal, the weaker our ability to analyze the decision clearly. And that's exactly where the ego takes over. It paints a beautiful picture of the future, while mathematics desperately tries to bring you back to reality. But mathematics doesn't shine in the shop window. It doesn't seduce. It doesn't excite. The car does. And that's why so many people trade prudence for status without realizing the real price of this exchange. The feeling of achievement may be immediate, but the financial burden is long-lasting. The car may shine, but the debt always arrives first. This revelation changes a lot because it shows that we're not fighting against numbers, but against internal narratives that push us towards choices that seem glamorous, but which carry a profound impact on our financial lives. When we understand this emotional game, we begin to see that the decision isn't about the car itself, but about the mindset that guides our choices. And understanding this is the first step to regaining control, avoiding pitfalls, and building a lighter, smarter path, more aligned with the life we truly want. If all of this makes sense to you and has somehow touched something within your personal journey, leave a comment below. That makes sense to me. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject because there's a turning point that almost no one sees, but which completely transforms how you make decisions about your own financial life. When we leave the illusion created by the ego and enter reality, something powerful happens. We realize that the right car isn't the one that impresses others, but the one that doesn't destroy your future. And this change in mindset opens a door that many spend their entire lives without crossing. The hidden truth is that the car you can have, the one that fits your reality, and not the expectations of others, is precisely the one that gives you financial peace, restful nights, and a sense of control over your own journey. There are silent consequences that no one shows in commercials. When you choose a car aligned with what you can actually afford, you're not just saving money. You're preserving your freedom of choice for years to come. You're buying peace of mind. You're building space to grow. This is something that doesn't have the flash of headlights or the smell of a new car, but it has a profound impact on your life. Real progress doesn't happen when you squeeze your income to maintain appearances, but when you use money intelligently to create stability. And this stability, even if invisible to others, is what sustains any true transformation. This is where many people get lost. There's a clear line between wanting and being able to. But in the rush to keep up with social expectation, many confuse dreams with obligations. However, financially intelligent people don't make that mistake. They know that freedom comes before status. They know that emotional comfort is worth more than aesthetic comfort. And above all, they know that a car doesn't define anyone, but the debt it generates can define the course of an entire life. That's the difference between an impulsive decision and a conscious decision, between an expense that impresses and an expense that protects. And when you observe the behavior of those who truly accumulate wealth, you notice a pattern. These people don't choose cars to prove something. They choose cars to preserve something, their autonomy, their future, their opportunities. That's how investors think. That's how people who accumulate wealth make decisions. They see the car as a tool, not a trophy. They see financing as a strategy, not a trap. And, above all, they understand that freedom is the most valuable asset there is, and that any purchase that takes away that freedom cost more than it should have. When you start looking at the car from this angle, the narrative changes. Clarity emerges where there was once only impetuosity. Lightness emerges where there was once only pressure. And this revelation paves the way for the most important part of the journey. Understanding how to transform this mindset into practical choices that truly work in everyday life, without weight, without guilt, and without that constant feeling of chasing something that never arrives. If this passage resonated with you in any way, write it in the comments. I'm on this journey too. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because there's a point where all this talk about desire, reality, and financial freedom finally takes concrete form. This is where the transformation truly begins. When you understand how the 24-10 rule works, something inside you changes. Suddenly, that emotional fog surrounding buying a car gives way to almost surgical clarity. The rule is simple, direct, and works like an instant X-ray of your decision. 20% down payment, a maximum of 4 years of financing, and a monthly payment that doesn't exceed 10% of your income. 3 numbers that, together, dismantle illusions and reveal the hidden truth behind the deal. And it's amazing how, when we put this structure in front of a car we want, the emotional impact dissipates like smoke. The math exposes what marketing tries to hide. You look at the down payment and realize if you're really prepared. You see the term and understand if you're on the path to building wealth or trapping yourself for years. And when you compare the monthly payment with your income, you often discover that the car seemed to fit in your budget, but didn't fit in your future. This revelation hurts, but it liberates. It's like discovering, behind the scenes of the purchase, what no one would tell you in an advertisement. The car may shine, but the debt always comes first. The rule is so powerful because it removes ego from the equation. While desire pushes you toward an impulsive decision, it pulls you back into the realm of awareness. It's like having a filter that separates emotion from logic, revealing what truly matters. And the most curious thing is that this structure doesn't exist by chance. It was created to protect the consumer from sales strategies that make you look only at the installment payment, never at the total impact. The industry knows that when you focus only on the monthly amount, you lose sight of the size of the debt. That's why extending the payment term seems so seductive. The installment becomes small, but the real cost becomes gigantic. When you apply the 24-10 rule, you immediately realize if the car is aligned with your reality, or if you're being driven by a fantasy built in your head. The rule doesn't negotiate, doesn't mask, doesn't promise. It reveals. It shows you if you're on the path to freedom or the path to debt. And this revelation completely transforms the mindset with which you approach your decisions. It's no longer about the shiny car, but about the life you're building behind it. And when you internalize this logic, something powerful happens. You begin to see each choice as part of a larger journey, not as an isolated purchase. You understand that protecting your money today means reaping peace of mind tomorrow. And this awareness opens doors that previously seemed too far away. If this part of the easy conversation clarified something for you, leave a comment below. That makes sense to me. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject because there's a point in the journey where the 4-20-10 rule stops being just a financial calculation and becomes a mirror that isn't always comfortable to look at, but that reveals a hidden truth about who's making the decisions, you or your ego. When you apply the rule to buying a car, you're not just analyzing numbers, you're analyzing behavior, mindset, and even the stage of your own financial life. It's as if the rule tells you, without saying a word, whether you're on the path to freedom or being guided by the need to maintain an appearance that, deep down, doesn't sustain you. And it's curious to see how, behind the scenes of this choice, every detail counts. When a 20% down payment seems impossible, the rule shows that perhaps it's not the right time. Not because you're incapable, but because you're still building a solid foundation. When a 4-year mortgage seems too short, it reveals how much the industry has shaped our perception of normality, pushing very long terms as if they were opportunities. And when a 10% down payment exposes how much of your budget is already committed, the rule illuminates an aspect of life that many people try to ignore: the silent impact of all previous decisions. It shows whether you are ready to choose consciously or if you are still letting haste, social comparison, and the desire for validation dictate the pace of your life. It is at this moment that the mask falls. Because the rule doesn't lie, doesn't disguise, doesn't negotiate with the ego. It reveals whether you are driving towards a light future or carrying the weight of choices made to impress. And this revelation is powerful because it brings to light something that goes far beyond the car. It shows whether you live for appearances or for purpose, whether you are still trying to follow the route others expect or are finally building your own path. And above all, it shows whether you have reached that point where making intelligent decisions is not a sacrifice, but a way of caring for your own life. This awareness transforms everything. It makes you realize that the ideal car isn't the one that attracts attention on the street, but the one that matches the tranquility you want to feel when you lay your head on the pillow. It's not the one that brings immediate admiration, but the one that preserves your future opportunities. This change in mindset is one of the greatest revelations anyone can have about money, because it shifts the focus from how I look to who I am becoming. And that's where the reflection that summarizes this entire journey in an almost cinematic way arises. The car you choose doesn't show who you are. It shows who you are willing to become. This phrase has a profound impact because it opens up a new way of looking at choices, identity, and real progress, preparing the samyao ground for us to understand what this transformation represents in everyday life and how it creates a ripple effect in all areas of life. If this passage resonated with you, leave a comment below. I'm on this journey too. If you've made it this far, it's because this topic truly resonated with some part of your story, and that says a lot about the path you're choosing to follow. So, before we wrap up this conversation, let me ask you something in a very natural way. If this content brought you clarity, if it helped you see your decisions with more awareness and ease, please subscribe to the channel. It's not just to increase numbers, it's because I want to continue walking with you on this journey of intelligent choices, financial freedom, and real transformation. Every video I prepare here has exactly that purpose, to be truly useful. And since you stayed with me until the end, leave a comment with the phrase, "I'm with you until the end." It's a simple way for me to know who is truly following this entire journey, who is absorbing every part of the message, and who is committed to this mindset shift. These comments always show me that it's worthwhile to continue creating content like this. If the video touched you at any point, please leave a like. Not for the gesture itself, but because it reinforces the connection we've built throughout this conversation and helps this message reach other people who may be experiencing the same conflict between ego and reality. And before you go, there's a video over here that perfectly complements what we talked about today. Click and continue with me there. Your journey is just beginning.